else with. The pocket park that's on Kinderconnect, really no one can get you because there's no traffic light there. And there's really nothing to do once you get in that park, but turn around and come back out. Any thoughts of, is that on the sale?
Right now, everything is we haven't even laid out a plan yet for anything right now. We're just looking at all the pieces of property, we're putting them together, and we're gonna lay out an idea of where we can go with each piece of property. So it's not, there's nothing being focused on as far as one piece of property right now. We're looking at this is why we call it an asset committee. We wanna find out what we have, where we move forward. That includes redevelopment downtown, includes every piece of property we have.
How about the paper street of Oak Street?
That's another one we're looking at too. We got a lot
because we can get the town's favorite builder if you can throw anything.
Well,
no, not that.
I was just wondering.
No. Okay,
So,
thank you.
okay,
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I'm gonna close, I need a motion to close this portion of the meeting to the public.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, by the way, everybody can clap for them. We'll have council comments, okay? And we'll start out with Paul and we'll go around, okay?
I appreciate everybody coming up tonight. You know, the concern you have is listen, John and I talk a lot. I mean, I'm liaison at DPW. We have a lot of good conversations where we're going with this. And I'm a business owner in town, so I do understand manpower. I do understand what it takes to keep the company running. Outsourcing for everything is not the answer. We understand that. But as a council, defend the council. Yes, you are the CEO, we are the elected officials here. So for us not to even look at something and just question things, we wouldn't be doing our job. Whether we agree with you or not, if we come in here and say, okay, you said that, we're not going to look at it. We have to look at everything down the road. But what we do as a council, we go to the person who runs that department, John Lynch, and we do talk to him, and we say, what do you think? At least I do, okay? And we find out the information from the inside. We say, where can we go with this? Now, moving forward for every department, we try to do that with every department. You got some very smart gentlemen up here. I'm not talking about myself, I'm talking about everybody else up here. You know, we're talking about people who are professionals who look at other stuff. You're right, we are temporary. We do put our time on the you know, after we work a full day at work, we come here and we listen to everybody. And I'll tell you one thing right now, I'm down at that DPW more than anybody besides the DPW guys with my own business. So I'm in and out of there, I see what's going on. My conversation with John is constant. So I really appreciate the force of people who come out tonight. I see all you guys on the road all the time. I just understand where we're going with this. But I just ask everyone just to be patient with stuff. You know, as a company, this town does work like a company. But things move very slow. And unfortunately, when you mention something, it runs like wildfire. So you don't get a chance to, you don't get a chance to explain yourself that we were talking about. The council itself has to discuss everything on the table. If we don't, we wouldn't be responsible. So we have to go and we have to talk to each other with some ideas out there. In my own company, if I don't talk to my partners or people who work for me, and I say, what do you think we go down this route? I would be irresponsible and I would be out of business. So we have to take every issue down. We're not looking to fire anybody. We're not looking to do major outsourcing. We're not looking to do that. But we have to entertain every idea that comes across. And if it comes across, we don't like it, guess what? It goes throw it in the garbage. Every department gets handled that way. And if we're not doing that as a council, then you're right, you don't need us up here. You need a borough administrator, you need a mayor, and you need a borough attorney. But if we're not going to be here to help, then you're right, we don't have to be here either. But you know what? We enjoy helping out the town. And we want to give back to the community too. We don't want to kill this community. We want to preserve it. I grew up in town. Heidi and I went to school together. You know, so we want to preserve what we have. We want to keep it moving forward. We want to keep what we have in a position that we can have this in the next 15 to 20, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years down the road. We want to keep this town together. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. It's funny how these things happen, and I think the council needs to learn from this. That when you put ideas out there, I mean, that you might just think is black and white, it's a numbers thing, oh, let's just go look at these mechanics numbers, maybe we can outsource all our mechanics and get rid of that. Well, you're affecting people's lives, and that gets out there very quickly, and people are passionate about it, and they respond, and I love to see that response. And
wake up the borough attorney again.
I mean, I've questioned some of this drive behind it. I've, you know, publicly, only because it didn't make sense to me. I have a business where I have inside labor and I also subcontract out, and every time I subcontract out, it costs me more money because that person has to make a profit, and they have to pay a fair wage to their workers. So I wasn't sure where we were going with this. I mean, I respect Councilman Court's, you know, we want to look at it, but you know what? We're not operating in a vacuum up here. We're affecting people's lives, and you put things out that get into the public domain that are going to affect people's lives. I think you got to be very careful when we go down this road. This is not the first issue that you know, something's been explored and then it, you know, it gets out into the public, and we have a crowded room again. I appreciate the quick response that obviously the DPW has some strong supporters, and you know, that might help get a course correction on some decisions that are going to be being made up here. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Ed?
I want to thank everybody also for coming out tonight. I think this is it's an important discussion that we're starting to have. We're seeing this statewide. When you look at a cost-benefits analysis for outsourcing or consolidation or shared services, the end result is we know you cannot get the same service with the same dollar amount. If you want to save money, you're going to have reduced services, and that's a fact. And that's a discussion you need to have. It's not just dollars and cents. There are other aspects which you need to consider. And I think getting this kind of discussion started is important. With the, you know, with no end for the, no end in sight looking for levy caps or appropriation caps, this is going to become more and more of an issue. Our salaries go up, and we're going to have to deal with either reducing workforce or reducing services. That's the reality of the budget situation. That being said, I mean, maybe the process isn't pretty, but I'm an engineer by background. I'm a certified public works manager. I understand the way DPWs work. And I think John does do an excellent job with the limited resources he has. Mr. Costa's correct. I've dealt with DPWs all in Bergen County, and there's a handful who stand out. River Edge is one of them. I'm called upon in my own job to evaluate whether we should outsource certain tasks or whether we should keep things in-house. And sometimes it is more effective to keep things in-house. Sometimes we find it is easier to go out. But again, to do our job up here, to collect the information and to analyze it as one part of the process. You got to get the dollars and cents. That's where you start. Then you look at the ancillary pros and cons of what you're doing. I don't remember the exact statistic today, but somebody mentioned about the garbage. If you went back 25 years ago, probably every DPW in the county or in the state was picking up the garbage. I think now that's down to 20%.
We never did.
Who have private garbage.
We never did.
I'll show you the municipality's website with the statistics on it.
We never did here.
Thank you, Ed.
We never had
Thank you.
private, I'm sorry, maybe I misspoke. What I'm saying is 25 years ago, all the DPWs did garbage pickup. It wasn't outsourced.
Not here.
Excuse me, Ed.
Never.
All right, Ed is talking. I would like.
Get some time in town.
I'm going by statewide statistics that 25 years ago, most towns did their own pickup. Now they don't. That's reality.
Part of the
Same
problem.
with recycling. Most towns now are outsourcing it. We do our own. Mr. Lynch has provided numbers that says it's more cost effective. I believe him. But again, we're doing our job by looking and getting all the information to make those kind of decisions.
This is part of the problem.
He said nothing's done in a vacuum. We need to do proper due diligence, information gathering, and then make our decisions based with public input as well. And that's the way I've been operating up here, and that's the way I'm going to continue to operate. You need information to make decisions.
Thank you, Ed. Johnny?
This should be
Yeah, I
interesting.
want to thank everybody for coming. I just want to make a couple of, want to address some of the comments that were made. First thing, one of the comments was that this is like a business, and it is. And that's why we have to look at every way possible of saving money. It doesn't mean that we're going to look to cut all of our services. My personal goal is to look at saving. If it means outsourcing, then it means outsourcing, but with similar services. That's been my goal since I started here. Does it always work out? No. But we have to look at it, and I believe that we have to look at it in depth. And there's been a couple comments tonight to, you know, I implore you to look at this, That's what we're doing. But every time we look at it, right away, everybody, boom, you guys are laying off 4 people. We never said we were laying off anybody yet. We are looking at each and every service to try to see where we can save and maintain the same level of service. That's what we're trying to do. But if we never look at it, we're never gonna get anywhere. Every time we're looking at issues like this, a group of people come in and they fight against it. I see a lot of the same faces out there fighting against this as other things. Things will never change, and I believe that I was elected up here to change the path that the previous council was going in, and that was spending too much. I think that was a big part of why I got voted in. And now, we're looking to cut back, and that's what I'm trying to do. Doesn't mean that we're gonna lay off right away. I don't know exactly what it means. What we're trying to do is understand what options we have as a council. But again, every time we're looking at something, the group that's affected comes in and fights against it, and that's totally understandable. But we have to deal with the budget at the end of the year. And now is the time that we have to look at this and see where we can go for next year's budget. Because next year's budget is gonna be a shortfall again. Someone made a comment, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Our budget is broke. We are in bad position year after year, we're in a hole. And we talked about affecting people's lives. We keep affecting the taxpayer's life year after year, asking him for more money. Every year we go back and we ask the taxpayers for more money because we can't balance the budget to zero. So all I'm saying is that we are looking at these items, not just DPW, but we've looked at them consistently across the board at every department. It has nothing to do with the service that we're getting and how great a job we're doing. We understand that they're doing a great job, but the budget and the costs across the board are hurting us. And we have to look at it. If there was a way to save and keep that same level of service, we have to do it. We have to do it. If somebody had said to you, just like in your own household budgets, if you had somebody doing your yard work and somebody else came in and was able to do it cheaper but maintain the same level of service, I'm sure you would take it. I'm sure you would take it because it would affect your budget and your family's budget. And that's how I feel we have to treat things up here. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandy?
Thanks, Mayor. Fellow members of council, members of the public, thanks for coming to the meeting. It always makes the meeting more interesting when we have a full house. We get to hear from you. We asked John Lynch to prepare a comprehensive audit of his core services. He put together a really, really good report. I was actually pretty astonished that he's able to do everything in his report with just the skeleton crew that he has left from the attrition over the last few years from the DPW. I really haven't heard a convincing case for outsourcing anything from the DPW up until now. When John was here before us the last time, he indicated that if we bagged our own leaves, we'd save every household about $40 a year. Well, I know, living on Kindercomack Road, that the DPW comes around twice in the leaf season and picks up leaves. Once at the beginning and once at the end. So that's $20 out of my property taxes for each leaf pickup. I don't think Peggy White can get her leaves picked up for $20. I know I can't, and I think it's a bargain. I haven't really heard any convincing case up until now for selling off any borough assets, and you know, all of the issues that have been brought forth to the council regarding shared services with other towns, they've all been investigated, they've all been vetted. Up until now, we've run into, frankly, dead end after dead end, because it just doesn't make, when you sharpen your pencil and you crunch the numbers, it doesn't make any sense. So I really haven't seen any good reason why we should do anything regarding personnel in the DPW. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. And Alphonse, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for coming up this evening. I've been coming to these meetings for about 6 years or so, and there were a lot of times that it was me and
Really?
Peggy White in the audience and no one else.
Really?
So, it's,
You weren't here when I was here.
So it is nice to see everyone here. What I've been seeing though from the audiences we've had a lot lately is a prejudging, assuming what the council's going to do before they have any idea actually what we're going to do. I saw it with the school budget, people very upset, concerned, but they didn't know what this council was going to do. Similarly here today. People are upset, I understand why. As a legislative body, and that's what the council is, it's a legislative body. You're more familiar with the state legislature and the federal Congress. They investigate things. You have an obligation to investigate things. And that's what this council does. We have an obligation to investigate something. That does not mean that ultimately we're going to come down one way or another, but you have to ask questions from time to time. You have to say, we have a budget, we have a 2% cap. We have to keep ourselves within that 2% cap. Costs keep escalating, what do you do? So you have to go through your budget and ask questions. Where ultimately we come down, I don't know. Because to be quite honest, we haven't heard any hard numbers. John started to give us numbers in terms of his costs. We've asked him to provide us with those numbers in writing. I know he'll give it to us. I haven't heard any numbers from Johnny yet. So, do I want to look at the numbers? Yes. Do I know that the DPW does a fantastic job? Yes. Would those numbers have to be extremely compelling coming from Johnny for outsourcing? Absolutely. Because I know what we have right now. So that's where we are right now. Don't prejudge what we're doing. Come to the meetings. Listen to what we're talking about. I'm not prejudging this issue. Do I think where it's going to come down, where I'm ultimately going to come down? I have an idea, but I'm willing to listen, because that's what we have to do here at the council, is listen. That's our obligation. That's our oath, is to do what's right. Listen, inform ourselves. And if you don't do that, you're not doing your job, period. Beyond that, sir, you mentioned open space funding, and I just wanted to address that briefly. If we did not use the open space funding for DPW, you wouldn't have possibly 3 of these gentlemen here this evening. Because if you didn't use that money, they would have lost their job. That's the reality. Do I believe that it falls well within the confines of the statute and our ordinance to use it that way? I do. There's no good reason to buy a park if you can't maintain it. What are you going to do with a piece of land if you don't have the gentleman to maintain it? And that's why we allocated to DPW the open space funding and the portions that we did, so that they could continue to maintain our parks in the manner that everyone in this town has become accustomed to. So that's why it's been used. Because otherwise, again, we would have had to have laid off those gentlemen. And that was something we did not want to see happen.
I agree with that kid.
Just on a couple other issues, contrary to popular belief, I actually did go to the Board of Education for River Edge meeting. I could not stay because the meeting started a little late and I had to leave. But I was there for about a half hour or so. There were 6 teachers and 1 custodian who retired. I don't know how that's going to affect the budget. The Board of Ed doesn't know that yet. But I would encourage them to use that money for surplus towards next year's budget, and not, if there are any cost savings, not to spend it this year on other programs, to adhere to their budget and use that money, if there is any savings from the retirement of more senior teachers, towards the budget for the following year. Beautification finished up its plantings, did a fantastic job. They always do. And, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody for coming up tonight, and you know, it's great to have a full house. So I ask you to come back again. I think it's very, very important that there is input from the public. You all have very, very good ideas. We don't always agree on things up here, but it's very important to hear from the residents. I love those shirts. Nobody offered me one on the way in. I will tell you, you can see our council here sitting shirtless. $10. But I will tell you that we do appreciate you coming up. It's very, very important. And I'm glad that the council had the opportunity to make their comments so that you could all hear. Just understand that we are all here to work for the people. And sometimes we lose track of what we're doing. By and large, council people now and in the past have done what they thought was best for the people. You're always going to have people who have differences of opinion. You're always going to have people who don't like what you're going to do. You'll always have people who will criticize even the most wonderful worker. And I get strange emails now and then from people saying, oh, well, we saw the truck going for coffee. Well, they had a break. I can't tell you, but they were using a borrowed truck. Well, did you want them to shut the truck off, go and get their own car and go and get coffee or a newspaper or whatever it was? They're entitled, you know, to have their break. It's in their, you know, their contract and their day's work. People sometimes lose track of that, and we also have to respond to that. But I want to thank everybody for coming out. Our next meeting, we don't have any meeting next Monday, but the following Monday we do. So I would welcome you to come back up again. We love a packed house. I'm sorry the people in the back didn't have a place to sit, but if we get more than this the next time, we'll probably have to move the meeting. So thank you very much. We need a motion to close this meeting so that we can go back into